In the second video of adsorption and colloids, we will be studying about colloids. There are number of substances which we use in our day-to-day life which are colloids. For example, milk, butter, jelly, whipped cream, mayonnaise, etc. Colloid chemistry is chemistry of everyday life, and knowledge of this colloid chemistry is very much essential for understanding about many useful materials like cement, bricks, pottery, porcelain, glass, enamels, oils, lacquers, rubber, celluloid, and other plastic. Even in leathers, paper, textiles, filaments, crayons, inks, road construction materials, etc. In many daily processes like cooking, washing, dyeing, painting, or flotation, water purification, sewage disposal, smoke prevention, photography, pharmacy, use of colloid is very much important. Colloids are heterogeneous mixtures. Heterogeneous mixtures are those mixtures in which the composition is not uniform. Hence, you can say that a heterogeneous mixture is one in which there are more than two components. So, the component of the colloid which is present in the largest proportion is called as the dispersion medium, and the other component which is present in smaller amount is called as the dispersed phase. The particles of the dispersed phase, they are larger than the size of a molecule and smaller than particles which we can see with our naked eye. If we consider an example of a solution of salt and water, we know that once we add salt in water, the salt dissolves completely in water and it forms a homogeneous system. Homogeneous system means one phased. If I take salt and if I add it in water, it is going to mix up and it is going to form a solution. So once the solution is formed, you cannot distinguish where are the salt crystals and where are the water molecules. So it is going to appear in the form of a solution with one phase. Let us consider another example. If we take coffee or tea leaves and mix it with milk, it is going to form a suspension. Now it is forming a heterogeneous system. Heterogeneous system means we will get two layers. The solute, that is the tea leaves or the coffee, it is going to settle down, right? So two layers can be easily distinguished there. So colloids are observed between these two extremes of solution and suspension, and they are called as colloidal dispersions or simply colloids. So in simple words, I would say is colloids, they lie intermediate between that of solutions and suspensions. There is a huge difference when it comes to detect the particle size in solutions and in colloids. Now solutions, they contain solute particles with diameter in the range of 0.1 to 2 nanometers, and this is the size of a typical ion or a small molecule. Now we know that solutions, they are transparent or they might be colored as well, but they do not separate on standing. That means if we keep it stable, if it is a homogeneous system, it is not going to separate out and form two layers. If we compare with colloids, then they have a particle size in the range of 2 to 500 nanometer. Now they are translucent to light and they do not separate on standing. What is the meaning of translucent? So colloids are going to allow light to pass through them, but they are not transparent. Let us now study some examples of colloids. There are some phenomena which is observed in our daily life and they are understood in terms of colloids. First is the blue color of the sky. Why does the sky appear blue? It is because there are minute dust particles along with small water droplets which are dispersed in the air, and this scatters the blue light which reaches our eyes. Next example is of blood. It is a colloidal dispersion of plasma proteins and antibodies in water. At the same time, blood is also a suspension of blood cells and platelets in water. The third example is of soil. Now fertile soils are colloidal in nature, where humus act as a protective colloid. The humus which is present, it is the topmost layer of the soil and it consists of nutrients. Now the humus is formed because of dead plants and animals. And soil absorbs moisture and nourishing materials due to its colloidal nature. Fog, mist, and rain are also examples of colloid. Mist is caused by small droplets of water which are present in the air. Fog is formed whenever there is temperature difference between the ground and air. A large portion of air containing dust particles gets cooled below its dew point. The moisture from the air, it condenses on the surface of these particles, which forms fine droplets which are colloid particles and float in the air as fog or mist. Let us now study the classification of colloids. Colloids are classified in three different ways based on physical state, on interaction or affinity of phases, and molecular sizes. First is the classification of colloids based on physical state of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Here is a table which gives us the types of colloids based on physical state. The first column is dispersed phase. So here the component which are present in smaller amount. Next is dispersion medium. Dispersion medium are the components which are present in larger quantity. Then you have the type of colloid and then the examples. So first is solid acting as the dispersed phase and solid as the dispersion medium as well. So the type of colloid is solid colloid and the examples are colored glasses, gemstones, porcelain and paper. Next, solid as dispersed phase and liquid as dispersion medium. The type of colloid is sols and gels and the examples are paints, cell fluids, gelatin, muddy water, starch solution. Solid as the dispersed phase and gas as the dispersion medium. The type of colloid is aerosols and the examples are smoke and dust. Next, liquid as the dispersed phase and solid as the dispersion medium. The type of colloid is gel and the examples are cheese, butter and jellies. The next colloid is liquid in dispersed phase as well as dispersion medium and the type of colloid is emulsion and example are milk and hair cream. Next is liquid as the dispersed phase and gas as the dispersion medium. The type of colloid is aerosol again and the examples are fog, mist, cloud, hairsprays, insecticide sprays, etc. Next is gas as dispersed phase and solid as the dispersion medium and the type of colloid is solid sol and the examples are pumice stone, foam rubber and plaster. Next is gas as the dispersed phase and liquid as the dispersion medium and the type of colloid is foam and the examples are froth, whipped cream and soap lather. Next is the classification of colloids based on interaction or affinity of phases. So depending on this, there are two types of colloids, that is lyophobic colloids and lyophilic colloids. If water is used as the dispersion medium, then the terms hydrophilic and hydrophobic are used. The word hydro stands for water. What are lyophilic colloids? Lyo means liquid and philic means loving. We know that the colloid is made up of two phases, that is the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. So when the particles of the dispersed phase have a greater affinity for the dispersion medium, then they are called as lyophilic colloids. Affinity means either liking or attraction. If you take a lyophilic sol and evaporate it, the dispersed phase separate out. The dispersed phase is the one which is used in smaller amount. But if it is remixed with the medium, then the sol can be formed again. And this is the reason that sols are called as reversible sols. They are stable and they are difficult to coagulate. Coagulate means to become thick and partly solid. I would like to give you an example here. If we take wheat flour and if we mix it with water, of course it is going to form a dough. If we take that dough and keep it in sunlight, the water is going to evaporate. But if I add water again, then again it is going to form a dough. And this is the reason sols are called as reversible sols. Next is lyophobic colloids. Lyo stands for liquid and phobic means fearing or liquid hating. Now, colloid solutions in which the particles of the dispersed phase have no affinity, that means no liking for the dispersion medium, are called as lyophobic colloids. Some examples are silver, gold, hydroxides, etc. So once they are precipitated or coagulated, they have very little tendency or no tendency to revert back to the colloidal state. Here is a table which shows the comparison between lyophilic and lyophobic colloids. So lyophilic colloids are formed easily by direct mixing, whereas for lyophobic colloids you need to use some special methods. Lyophilic colloids are reversible. I gave you the example of wheat flour, whereas lyophobic colloids, they are irreversible. The particles are not easily visible under ultramicroscope of lyophilic colloids. For lyophobic colloids, they are easily detected under ultramicroscope. The lyophilic colloids, they are self-stabilized, whereas lyophobic colloids, they are unstable and hence they require traces of stabilizers, which means we need to add stabilizers to make them stable. If large amount of electrolytes are added, then it causes precipitation or coagulation of lyophilic colloids, whereas addition of small amounts of electrolytes causes precipitation and coagulation of lyophobic colloids. For lyophilic colloids, the viscosity of the dispersed phase is much higher than that of the dispersion medium, whereas for lyophobic colloids, the viscosity of dispersed phase is nearly the same as dispersion medium. Now, viscosity means the fluid's resistance to flow. In simple words, how fast or slow the liquid moves. For lyophilic colloids, the surface tension of the dispersed phase is lower than the dispersion medium, whereas for lyophobic colloids, the surface tension of the dispersed phase is nearly the same as that of the dispersion medium. Next is the classification of colloids based on molecular size. First are the multimolecular colloids. So the individual particle, it consists of an aggregate of atoms or small molecules with size which is less than 10 raised to 3 picometer. For example, the gold sol, it consists of particles of various sizes having several gold atoms. So the colloidal solution in which particles are held together with the van der Waals forces of attractions are called as the multimolecular colloid. Example would be the S8 sulfur molecules. So under this you need to keep in mind that the size is less than 10 raised to 3 picometer and the particles are held together with the help of van der Waals forces of attraction. Next is the macromolecular colloids. Now the molecules of the dispersed phase, they are sufficiently larger in size to be of the colloidal dimension. For example, starch, cellulose, proteins, polythene, nylon, plastics. From the word itself, macromolecular, macro stands for large or bigger in size. The third type of colloid based on molecular size is associated colloids or micelle. The substances behave as normal electrolytes at low concentration and are associated in higher concentration, forming a colloidal solution. These associated particles are called as micelles. For example, soap and detergent. Here is a diagram of soap micelle in water. The soap molecule, it has a long hydrophobic hydrocarbon chain. Hydrophobic means water hating. Hydrocarbon means it is made up of hydrogen and carbon. And this part is called as the tail. And it is attached to a hydrophilic ionic group, that is carboxylate, called as head. Now this head is water loving since it is hydrophilic. So in water, the soap molecule arranges themselves to form a spherical particles that are called as micelles. In each micelle, the hydrophobic tail of the soap molecule points to the center, and the hydrophilic head lies on the surface of the sphere, and as a result of this, the soap dispersion in water is stable. Next are the properties of colloidal dispersion. There are various properties which are exhibited by the colloidal dispersion, like we know that colloidal system is heterogeneous. Heterogeneous means it is made up of two or more phases. Colloidal system is made up of two phases, that is dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Dispersed phase is present in smaller amount and dispersion medium is present in larger amount. The dispersed phase particles, they pass slowly through parchment paper or animal membrane, but they readily pass through ordinary filter paper. Also, the particles are usually not detectable by powerful microscope. Let us now study the optical property. First is the Tyndall effect. If we take two beakers, in one beaker there is water and in another beaker there is Dettol solution. Now if you take a light source or a light battery and if you try passing the light through the two solutions, you will observe that when the light passes through the solution, it won't be visible. But when the same light passes through the Dettol solution, there will be a light beam seen. Now what is the reason for this? The phenomena of scattering of light by colloidal particles and making path of light visible through the dispersion is referred as Tyndall effect. So in the first beaker where water was present, there was no colloid present in it, and that is why there was no scattering of light taking place. Whereas in the second beaker, the solution had Dettol present in it, which made the solution colloidal in nature. So when the light passed through the Dettol solution, the particles which were bigger in size caused the scattering of light. And that's the reason that the light beam was visible in the second beaker. Here is a diagram which shows the light source passing through the solution and the colloidal dispersion. The bright cone of the light is called as the Tyndall cone. However, there are certain conditions which are required to observe the Tyndall effect. That is, the diameter of the dispersed particle should be not smaller than the wavelength of the light used. The refractive indices of the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium should differ largely. Refractive indices describe how fast the light travels through the material. Let us now study the importance of Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect is useful in determining the number of particles in colloidal system and the particle size. It is also used to distinguish between the colloidal dispersions and the true solution. True solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances in which the solute dissolves in the solvent and has particle size which is less than 1 nanometer. Next property is the color. The color of the colloidal solution depends upon the wavelength of light which is scattered by the dispersed particle. The color of the colloidal dispersion, it changes with the manner in which the observer receives the light. Let us understand this with the help of an example. If we take a few drops of milk on large amount of water, then it appears blue when viewed in terms of scattered light, but it appears red when viewed by transmitted light. The colloid also depends on size of the colloidal particles. For example, the finest gold sol. Gold sol means taking gold in fluid. It appears red in color, and where the size increases, it appears purple in color, and when a number of gold atoms come together, we get the yellow gold color. Let us now watch a video to understand this concept of color.
Scattering of light. We've across some wonderful phenomena in our daily life, such as the blue color of the sky, color of water in deep sea. The reddening of the sun at sunrise and the sunset are. What is the reason behind these natural phenomena? For this, first we shall discuss about scattering of light. Scattering of light. When a beam of light falls on an atom, it causes the electron in the atom to vibrate. The vibrating electrons, in turn, re-emit light in all directions. This process is called scattering. Earth's atmosphere contains air molecules and other tiny particles. When light from the sun passes through the atmosphere, it gets scattered by the large number of particles in the atmosphere. According to Rayleigh law, the intensity of scattered light varies inversely as the fourth power of the wavelength of height, 1 by h power 4. Tyndall effect. John Tyndall was the first one to explain about the color of the sky in the year 1859. He stated that the color blue scattered more than that of red due to the shorter wavelength in a case where the light has to pass through a clear fluid that contains suspended small particles. Our planet Earth consists of various mixtures of particles like smoke, molecules of air, dust particles and water droplets. These diffused particles reflect the light before it reaches the Earth. The scattering of light by the colloidal particles is known as the Tyndall effect. The size of the particles determines the color of the scattered light. This statement can be proved with the help of a simple experiment. Allow a beam of light to pass through a tank of water with a slight mixture of soap or milk in it. If you wash the beam from a side, you can notice that the beam scatters blue light. But when you thoroughly observe the beam from the end, then you will find that the beam is reddened after it has passed through the tank. Why is the color of the clear sky blue? Since the wavelength of blue color is smaller than the wavelength of red color, lambda b less than lambda r. Scattering of blue light by particles in Earth's atmosphere is very large. For this reason, we see a blue sky. Although violet light is scattered more than blue light, our eyes are not very sensitive to violet light. Color of the sun at sunrise and sunset. At the time of sunset or sunrise, the sun is near the horizon as shown in the diagram. The rays from the sun must travel more kilometers through the atmosphere than at noon. Therefore, more blue is scattered from the sunlight. The removal of blue leaves the transmitted light more reddish in appearance. Therefore, sun looks reddish at the sunset or sunrise.
So I hope you have understood this property of colloidal dispersion. Next is the kinetic property. The colloidal or microscopic particles, they undergo a random zigzag motion in all directions in a fluid, and this motion of the dispersed phase particles is called as Brownian motion. British botanist named Robert Brown observed a similar motion while studying pollen grains under microscope, and this random motion was explained by Albert Einstein in the year 1905. What causes this Brownian motion? There is constant collision of particles of the dispersed phase with the fast moving molecules of the dispersion medium, that is the fluid. Imagine that there is a molecule or atom which is in continuous zigzag motion, and if there happens to appear another molecule in its way, then this particular molecule is going to put that other molecule in motion. And due to this, the dispersed phase particles, they acquire kinetic energy from the molecules of the dispersion medium. This kinetic energy brings forth the Brownian motion. In simple words, the molecules which are present in the dispersion medium, they are in motion, and when dispersed phase comes in contact with them, they put the molecules of the dispersed phase also in motion because of kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy because of motion, and this is how the Brownian motion results. Let us now watch a video to understand Brownian motion.
Brownian movement. The continuous zigzag motion of fine particles suspended in a gas or a liquid is called Brownian movement. It was discovered in the year 1827 by the botanist Robert Brown and is named after him. For example, let us observe a beam of sunlight entering a dark room. You will find that the dust particles are constantly moving in a haphazard manner. What makes dust particles move continuously in air? You already know that air is a mixture of gases, and gas molecules are always in a state of free random movement. These molecules hit the dust particles from all directions and make them move in an irregular manner. Similarly, if pollen grains are placed in water, they do not remain at rest but move about continuously and randomly. This is also an example of Brownian movement.
So this was all about the properties of colloidal dispersion. Now we move on to study the last topic under this chapter, that is emulsions. What are emulsions? A colloidal system in which one liquid is dispersed in another immiscible liquid, it is called as emulsion. Immiscible means it is not going to mix with each other. There are liquid-liquid colloidal system in which both liquids are completely or partially immiscible. Partially means it is not going to mix completely. There are two types of emulsions: emulsion of oil in water and emulsion of water in oil. First is emulsion of oil in water. In this emulsion, oil is the dispersed phase and dispersion medium is water, and this is called as emulsion of oil in water. So we know the dispersed phase is taken in smaller amount and the dispersion medium is present in a larger amount. Some examples are milk, vanishing cream, paint, etc. Milk consists of particles of fat which are dispersed in water. So the particles of fat will be the dispersed phase and water or milk is the dispersion medium. Next is emulsion of water in oil. Now this is an emulsion in which water is the dispersed phase and oil is the dispersion medium. So water will be present in lesser amount and oil will be present in greater amount. Example of this kind of emulsion is cod liver oil, which consists of particles of water dispersed in oil. Other examples include butter, cream, etc. This is a table which gives the difference between the two types of emulsions, that is oil in water and water in oil. So first point is oil is dispersed phase and water is the dispersion medium, whereas for water in oil, water is the dispersed phase and oil is the dispersion medium. If water is added, it will be miscible with the emulsion. Miscible means it will mix with the emulsion. But in case of water in oil, if oil is added, it will be miscible with the emulsion. So you need to add the dispersion medium only. If small amount of an electrolyte is added, it makes the emulsion conducting. But if small amount of electrolyte is added in water in oil emulsion, it has no effect on the conducting power. In oil in water, water is a continuous phase, whereas in water in oil, oil is the continuous phase. For oil in water emulsion, basic metal sulfates, water soluble alkali, metal soaps are used as emulsifiers. For water in oil emulsion, water insoluble soaps such as those of zinc, aluminium, iron, alkaline earth metals are used as emulsifiers. Emulsifier are substances which are used to mix two liquids. Let us now study the properties of emulsions. The first property is emulsions can be diluted with any amount of the dispersion medium. On the other hand, the dispersed liquid, when mixed, forms a separate layer. We know that the emulsion is made up of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Out of that, dispersed phase is present in smaller amount and dispersion medium is present in larger amount. So when you want to dilute it, you have to dilute it adding the dispersion medium only. So if it is an emulsion of oil in water, then where water is the dispersion medium, you have to dilute it with water only. If it is water in oil, where oil is the dispersion medium, then you have to dilute it by adding oil. The second property is the droplets in the emulsions are often negatively charged and they can be precipitated by electrolytes. This means that when you add an electrolyte, the droplets which are present in the emulsion, they are in solution form. So by precipitation, you can separate those droplets out in solid form. Emulsions show Brownian movement and Tyndall effect. The two liquids in emulsions can be separated either by heating, freezing, or centrifuging, etc. What are the applications of colloids? Colloids, they have a lot of application in the industrial field and also in our daily life. Let us study them one by one. First is electrical precipitation of smoke. Smoke is the colloidal solution of solid particles of carbon, arsenic compound, dust, etc. in air. Now when smoke is allowed to pass through chambers containing plates having charged smoke particles, they lose their charge and they get precipitated out. So these particles, they settle down on the floor of the chamber and the precipitator is called as the Cottrell precipitator. Next application is purification of drinking water. The water which is obtained from natural sources, they contain colloidal impurities. By addition of alum to such water, the colloidal impurities get coagulated and they settle down, and this makes the water potable, that is safe to drink. Third application are medicines. Now usually medicines, they are colloidal in nature. Colloidal medicines are more effective because they have larger surface area to volume ratio of a colloidal particle, and that is why they can be easily assimilated. Assimilation is the movement of molecules, or you can say the digested molecules in the cells of our body. Arigrol is a silver sol which is used as an eye lotion. Then milk of magnesia is an emulsion which is used for stomach disorders. These are some of the examples of colloidal medicines. Next is the rubber industry. So rubber is obtained by the coagulation of latex. Coagulation means small particles which are suspended in the liquid come together to form a clump. Example of coagulation is clotting of our blood. The other application is cleansing actions of soaps and detergents. Also photographic plates, films, industrial products like paints, inks, synthetic plastics, rubber, graphite lubricants, cements are also some examples of colloids.